magic.
Whoa.
This is unlike how we've seen people perform ever in the history of television.
This is freaking nutty nuts.
Fox is making television history and bringing you the world's first avatar singing competition. This is Alter Ego.
Look what we got here.
Why do you feel like you need an alter ego?
There's something about how I look behind this alter ego that I feel like it's held me back.
Lost dreams and second chances are reignited when singers from all walks of life become the stars they've always dreamed of being.
Look what we got here.
Oh, so we're talking about blockchain.
Yes.
So I will say, and privacy, right. So the key with these human capital markets is that they need interoperable data. They need your life turned into like ones and zeros in a big giant blob, because what they want to do is essentially in real time risk profile you as an investment and monitor your compliance to this sort of global nation state run by transnational global capital according to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So that is part of what the Internet of Bodies is about, is through these sensor networks, whether that's carrying your phone or having a Fitbit on or some other wearable technology or having an embedded biosensor. And I think, just yesterday we saw Elon Musk, marketing his Neuralink program. So there's all sorts of ways in which we are becoming sort of melded to the Borg. But they want the interoperable data because essentially the whole premise of impact investing is against pre-criminality, where criminality is not doing what they want you to do. And so there's a cost tied to the criminalized behavior, behavior that is in opposition to what the global order wants. And there's if they can fix you in advance, they're going to figure out how much that costs to fix you in advance versus how much it would cost them to address your problematic behavior in the future, and then carve out a bit of a slice in between for their profit. So they would pay for the intervention, get a little bit of profit, and essentially all of this ties you into a surveillance system and it legitimizes ongoing surveillance. Just like the COVID contact tracing and what we're expecting of people ties you into the system. They will say that the data that you give out in your Internet of Bodies interactions is private and that you will have control over that data. Whether or not those systems end up being on blockchain or some other sort of interoperable database ledger, I will say there are people who are far more sophisticated in understanding the technology and the capacity than I am, but I know that that is their goal, is a common database, interoperable database to hold your information as a digital identity. And ultimately, the goal is with 6G is to almost virtualize you as a digital twin, to create a shadow self as an avatar in virtual space. And they're even talking about simulated virtual worlds where the real world and the virtual worlds interact through sort of synthetic mixed reality world building, which is sort of the next phase after the phase that we're seeing now, which is kind of mind-boggling. But they need this interoperable data, and they need for us to conform to act as a data commodity. And so by adopting these digital identity systems, they will frame it that you will somehow be regaining power that has been taken from you by Zuckerberg and Bezos and all of these other entities that are harvesting your data for their profit. And while that is true in part, it's a trick question because once we accept that offer, then we've been locked into the system. Like we can only function within the game that they have created, which I've given like Joseph Gonzalez and I did a really nice seminar. I would encourage you to check out my blog, Wrench in the Gears, for it. It was a 3.5-hour program on gamification of the world and augmented reality. And they need our digital identity for us to function in their augmented reality world and to both track us almost as a playable character, if you're like in the video gaming world, that we go from playing our own character, in this virtual world building exercise to giving away our power so that we're actually being played by other entities, and that might not even be human at some point. It may be by artificial intelligence. So I think that's what I want to say about blockchain identity or digital identity, is just the emphasis on interoperable data that is tied into impact markets, that it is allowed for, it enables perpetual surveillance. And I would highly recommend, there's a book called We by Yevgeny Zamyatin, I think, from 1920. It's a very old book, but it's about this sort of society of living in a panopticon and what that means if where humanity, everyone is just reduced to a number and a digit. And that's the world that we're being sold on blockchain. And so if anything, I would say as a resistance movement and a spiritual resistance movement is that we resist any efforts to be commodified as data, even if they are saying that it is secure. And I want to mention, because this is something that's just happened recently in the past few weeks, and sometimes it comes in sneaky ways, like students in Chula Vista, California, a school district, in order for them to access public education, in-person public education, they were to give a blood sample on a cartridge COVID test where the results would be stored on blockchain. And that was bought by a company called Kahala Biosciences out of UC Irvine. It was a company that was just happened to pop up just in time for COVID to develop these blockchain testing systems. And I think the platform was called Adonaya. It was pretty creepy. It's like the goddess of safe return or something like that. So they're playing with us in how they're using these terms and these sort of mythological references. But essentially, in my mind, they're asking for a blood sacrifice of children, whether or not maybe it's just a touch of blood, but that those children are going to go on blockchain to justify their access to what is by right a free, appropriate public education system. And it's important to know that Chula Vista is within the area of San Diego, which is a smart city. It's part of the MacArthur Collective Shift LRNG learning data badge program, which is all about human capital investing, and these education systems, these badge-based education systems, which are going to underpin the education human capital markets. They go way back. I mean, before Clinton probably, but Clinton signed Goals 2000, which was about standardizing education and workforce aligning education. He signed it in San Diego. So there is quite a lot of meaning behind the fact that the students in this greater San Diego area are being put on blockchain, because that is very much the early stages of these digital identity impact investing systems. Don't put those kids on blockchain. I'm just saying, like, whoever is in California, like at this point, and this is what is really difficult, is that right now the people who are waving in techno-fascism are mostly the Democratic governors. They're the Democratic governors who are doing this. And I say this as someone who leans, well, I don't really belong anywhere anymore, but like I started out left. I just keep falling off the left. But like it is coming in from progressives who are saying they're doing this for our own good, is to put us on blockchain, and that is absolutely not true.